Hey everyone, so in this video I'm going to be going over the new Davie character that came out for Valentine's Day, and before I get into it, please don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel for more content and information. There's still a few days left to pull him if you want, and I just wanted to kind of give my overview on him and kind of what I think about him. So to start off, him as a 5-star ascendable, he has a rush at 45 AP, which is very fast. He deals 400% damage to one enemy and all adjacent enemies. He also recovers from normalize, so he's the first character to do that in the game. And he regains up to 30% of his max HP. So his specialist skill is called Hold the Line, and I'm sure many of us are pretty familiar with it. It's been a specialist skill that's been around for a while. But for those of you who don't know, for every dead teammate, this specialist receives plus 25% defense and 25% attack, and this actually stacks, so if there are multiple dead teammates, or if there are other attack or defense buffs in place, this will stack alongside that, which can be very useful. This Davie doesn't have a bound weapon as a 5-star, which is pretty typical in most cases. But if you refer back to the recent 5-star arena video that I made, he would be a great substitute for the yellow Sandy that I use, along with Sean or Alpha or the yellow Jesus. There's just a number of toons that are very similar to Davie in the 5-star era. Moving on to Davie as a 6-star toon, obviously his attack, defense, and HP stats increase. His attack stat is now pretty high at 2,815. His rush is still pretty low at 66 AP. It deals 500% damage to one enemy and all enemies adjacent to that character. Also similar to his 5-star version, he can recover from normalize, which is a little interesting I still find for him because it's not like his specialist skill is bide or payback or even command. I think hold the line is a little underwhelming because you could kill him off first, so then it doesn't really matter, or use bleed, burn, or maim to kind of eat through his HP directly. His rush, again, regains up to 50% of his max HP, which is quite a strong healing rush at the same time, but I still find him to be a decent toon. Not amazing, but not terrible either, and I know that's not really selling him, but I do have some ideas with him, especially as an S-class. I think his active skill is very powerful, but I do think that it's too slow. With an initial cooldown of 3 turns, it's just too slow to make him effective on a fast-rushing attack team. The active skill does give him plus 75% attack, which is basically Alice rushing, as well as plus 50% defense for 3 turns, so it makes him a bit sturdier because his defensive stat is pretty low compared to his HP and especially his attack. The focus ability is a really nice touch, especially coupled with his rush and his active skill, so he could be very effective for maybe a turn 3 or turn 4 team. But that's also pretty slow in some cases because we don't know if he's going to be able to kill all the opponents or not. A lot of testing would need to go into that to make sure. Now, moving on to his weapon, plus 30% attack, a medium bonus to AP when attacking, and this character gains 25% bonus HP at the beginning of each wave, which isn't very effective in a raid because there's only one wave in a raid, but there are multiple waves, say in a roadmap or survival road, for example. So I just don't find this weapon to be very useful if you want to use him on attack. You would definitely need to craft him a different weapon that boosts his attack stat overall. Now, moving on to his S-class version, he does get more powerful. His rush and his active skill stay the same as his specialist skill, but his attack stat goes up to 4,873. That is maxed out and with all the veteran rings, but that is quite high. And I do see a lot of potential with it. At 500% damage, it would be interesting to see if he could take out a full S-class team. I don't think he'd be able to take out, say, a Pete lead team, just because I've seen the results of a Rav team killing teams that have a Pete lead, even after a defense down or an attack up. I do have an idea against non-true defense leads, so if it wasn't a lead like Pete that gives HP and defense to the enemy, but say someone that just gives either HP or defense, or maybe they're still going for an attack lead with a AP bonus so that their team can possibly rush faster than your attack team. So this next team that I'm showing you, we're going to imagine that the last Maggie on the far right is Davie in this case, because this is just like a general type of team build idea that I have for a team that could possibly rush on the first turn. And a lot of this just has to do with different weapon choices. And what I like about this type of team is that you don't actually need to use a Dr. Stevens, which is that 60% AP gain with his rush. This way you could get that turn 1 rush that could potentially wipe out the whole defensive team on the first turn, assuming there's no true defense lead, which has HP as well as defense as the leadership skill. This is just an example. Again, we have to imagine that Maggie is Davie, who can do 500% damage to the center toon and all enemies adjacent. And the reasoning for using Victor is because he can use minus 50% defense to the opponent. And the other components of his team include having a huge AP leader that works with melee or with fast toons, because this will give plus 10 AP as a huge leader, and then also having a huge bonus to AP on the weapon, because that'll give an additional 10 AP for a total of 40 AP when attacking. And with our placeholder Maggie and actual Davie only needing 66 AP to rush, this is the perfect amount that's needed in order to get him to rush on the first turn. You just need 20% AP to self and 2 8% AP weapons. And since Victor's only 44 AP, having the huge on weapon and a huge leader, he just needs 1 8% AP weapon on the team, making it a very easy team to put together. And here's just a quick view of some of the weapon ideas that you could use for this team. Really, the 2 8% AP weapons could just go onto Victor and the yellow command toon, with your Davie having that 20% AP to self. There's other controlling weapons that you can use for the rest of the team in order to help them kind of control the enemy in case you don't get that turn 1 kill. Now, the idea of this team is you need to have a non-true defensive lead in order for this to work, because if the opponent has HP and defense as the leader, it's going to be very difficult to kill them on the first turn. So in some ways, I can compare Davie to Arav just because of the attacking power, almost 4,900 attack, but at 500% damage, versus Arav at almost 4,600 attack, but 750% damage. And Arav does do more damage than Davie. So I'm just going to test out Arav on a team just to kind of give an idea about how a team might be effective in the case of Davie. If Davie's able to rush on the first turn with no attack bonus, just a huge AP lead with plus 40% attack, and then utilizing Victor's defense down or Harper's defense down because it's also minus 50%. So this just gives you a good idea of kind of what to expect, I guess, and what you can plan for regarding the amount of damage that can actually be dealt. A similar problem seems to persist whenever Arav is trying to attack a Pete team, just because Pete is very tanky, as mentioned before, with the true defensive leader skill of HP and defense. So I would say it's reasonable to say that this problem would still persist with Davie instead of Arav. Now, a different problem that Arav faces that Davie wouldn't is turn 1 Arav teams usually need Dr. Stevens, and Angels daze him, which prevents him from being able to rush. Another problem is right there, the exhaust maim damage actually kills Arav. So if you have a turn 2 Arav team, or because your Dr. Stevens is dazed on the first turn and you can't use the active skill in order to gain AP, well, your Arav faces that problem of potentially dying on the first or second turn due to that unnatural AP gain. Angel teams, in theory, should cause less problems for Davie because Davie does not depend upon an unnatural AP gain from a toon like Dr. Stevens, but uses weapons that occur before the exhaust occurs. And I know people will say, well, there's definitely ways to stop Arav from dying. A simple method is just using a maim resist mod, which is what I actually have on my Arav. So you'll see in this match that my Arav actually resists the maim damage presented by the exhaust damage from Angel, so it's still pretty effective. Now, I think against some Angel leads, Davie would have a good shot at actually being able to one-shot the team depending on the defensive tunes. This defensive team, for example, has some offensive tunes on it, meaning their defense and HP are probably lower than if it were a true defensive team. So it's possible that Davie could end up one-shotting a team like this instead of Arav taking 3 turns, or 2 turns on a better team. And thank you everyone for watching my video.